It was the end of the 1970s. Disco was on its way out, while the opulent 80s and the me generation were on their way in. And on television, sitcoms still ruled. ABC was at the top of the heap with reliables like Mork and Mindy, Laverne and Shirley, and Three's Company. CBS was hitting the ratings bullseye with MASH, One Day at a Time, and Alice. Only NBC was down on its luck, relying on its one successful sitcom, Norman Lear's Different Strokes. A pioneer of consciousness-raising realistic television, Lear was the mastermind behind the smash hits All in the Family, Sanford and Son, Maude, and Good Times. At NBC, the only message that mattered was ratings.
NBC was one of three networks. There were only three back then. And CBS and ABC had monster comedy schedules. And over at NBC, there was Different Strokes and Hello, Larry. And that was it. So NBC was not in the comedy game.
For NBC President Fred Silverman, this was no laughing matter.
Fred Silverman, who was running NBC, knew that that was the key to success. You must have a comedy presence on your schedule.
Norman Lear's production company was asked to work its magic. The first step was to usher in one of Lear's favorite leading ladies to help save the day.
I had done the Ed Sullivan shows. I had done the Jackie Gleason show. I had done the Colgate Comedy Hour, which Norman Lear produced and wrote. Norman Lear was very big stuff, so I found myself doing everything from Good Times to All in the Family. I played a Tupperware lady.
Recognizing a good thing when he saw it, Lear had offered Ray a showcase in Different Strokes.
I got a call to come in to find out about a series with two little boys, and they needed a house mother. I had a contract with CBS, and I didn't think they'd let me out. So I called Norman Lear, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And he said, CBS owes me a few favors. I bet you I can get you out of that. I bet you a nickel.
Lear's faith in Charlotte Ray paid off. As the jovial housekeeper, Mrs. Garrett, she helped make Different Strokes a huge hit.
She was an instant smash. And at the time, Brandon Tartikoff and Fred Silverman, when they saw the success of Different Strokes and saw that Charlotte Ray was getting the attention of an audience, they said quickly spin her out because they needed another show.
We were going along and the show was getting wonderful ratings. And then one day they went like this and I thought, oh God, am I being canned? And they said, now look, Fred Silverman wants to spin you off.
The plan was to mock up a girls' version of Welcome Back, Kotter, a diverse group of teenagers with a wise and understanding mentor. Dubbed The Facts of Life, the show would be set at an all-girls boarding school where Mrs. Garrett served as house mother.
It was a chance for her to sort of, quote, launch her own show, and initially the show was called Garrett's Girls.
She made a deal to be able to get back to Different Strokes. If this new show weren't to work, she had an automatic contract that would stay right with Different Strokes.
This house mother thing isn't permanently temporary, is it?
Oh, no, I'll be back. I promise.
The risks of tampering with a hit show weren't taken lightly, and neither was the pressure that was being placed on Charlotte Ray's shoulders.
NBC was desperate. NBC had so few assets that everyone at NBC was hoping and praying that Facts of Life could be a show.
A motley young crew would be enrolled at the Eastland School for Girls. The first actress to be cast, Felice Schachter, had auditioned for the role of Kimberly on Different Strokes, but that part went to Dana Plato. This time around, she was set to play the impressionable Nancy.
I'm checking out, Mrs. Garrett. I have an early date with Roger.
I can see you're really looking forward to it.
I am. I'm absolutely going out of my mind with excitement.
She was our first girl in. Felice was someone that we were very excited about.
I had a lot of input into creating the character of Nancy. At that time in my life, I was very boy crazy. You know, if you like actually saw them at the schoolroom, I had like the Teen Beat and you know, Super Teen, whatever those magazines were, had the pictures of like Peter Barton, Mikhail Baryshnikov, like whoever was hot then, you know, I had them pictures up and I was talking about, I had a crush on this one, I was crazy about that one. And so I think they saw that like little boy craziness in me and then developed this little part of my character where I'm on the phone with my boyfriend, Roger.
Felice Schachter is my soul sister. Felice and I became incredibly close very quickly. Very same sensibility. She just felt like family. I think Felice got a bum deal.
When I did the initial pilot spin-off, my character was a main character in the show, and then when I came back to do the series, it had been severely diminished, and I was very disappointed. And I went to Al Burton's office and said, what happened? Where's my part? Where's my character? I thought, you know, that I was a big part of the show. Well, you know, we're working on it, and the writers need to develop a character, and there really wasn't much to my character other than being a sweet girl who was the star of the school play.
The script had not yet quite been written fully. It was just conceived. And so we were just filling it in. And so the girls actually, as we brought them in, began to develop their relationship to the script after the fact sometimes. We did have some material. We had scenes written, but they weren't specifically about anybody yet. We started with Felice, then we were looking for different kinds of gals.
16-year-old Texas native Lisa Whelchel auditioned for the role of the affluent Blair Warner and landed the part. The former Mouseketeer couldn't believe her luck.
Well, you don't see me getting all upset when people tell me how gorgeous I am.
Lisa came up with her character. Nobody really sort of directed her to be that. It was on the page, too. She was playing a snobby girl. So her interpretation of it was how she was affected.
I had been on enough auditions that they knew me, and so they were looking for a naive, fast-talking girl from Texas by the name of Blair Warner. And so they called me, and I came in to audition. But there was one word in the script, one line in the script, actually, that I read, and Julie Piekarski, who was also auditioning, was standing beside me, and I read it kind of condescendingly while looking at her posterior, and that changed the whole character. They loved that reading and that attitude so much that when I got the part and I showed up for the actual table reading, I had the part of Blair Warner, but she was no longer a naive, fast-talking girl from Texas. She was a very snobby, rich girl from New York.
I think the reason that Lisa played Blair so well is that she was just so unlike that when she would see Blair, I mean, she just let it rip. It's so the antithesis of who Lisa was, is, ever will be.
So beautiful on the outside and just such a spitfire on the inside. She is just one of the funniest people I've ever known in my life.
She was not afraid of physical comedy, and she wasn't afraid of looking unattractive in the name of physical comedy, which to me makes you a brilliant comedic actor.
Who is the smartest? Well, it couldn't be me. I've got too many other things going for me. You're right, Blair. It's not you either.
Kim was very young. Kim was smaller. She wasn't really even quite a teenager yet. But I was so impressed with her comedy timing. You know, we needed not only just adorable, pretty, good actresses, we needed funny actresses. And by far, she was one of our great little comedians.
Kim had more experience than any of the rest of us girls combined. I mean, she'd been working since she was a baby. And so you could tell she knew how to deliver a line, and she knew how to deliver it to get the biggest laugh.
Can I help it if I'm years ahead of my time?
They had me audition and come back, and they really liked what I did. But I was too small to play 12. And so the producer at the time, Al Burton, said, you know, we really want her, what can we do to make her taller? And they came up with the idea to put me on roller skates. And that is the story of why the first season I was on roller skates.
You and me have the same IQ score. I knew we were soul sisters.
Here were these two girls who grew up together, who had this insane friendship. No judgment about each other. A lot of love, a lot of respect. I mean, I really think it, at least for me, and I know from the fan letters that I got, it really taught girls how to be good girlfriends.
Mindy Cohn obviously was not a professional child. That's what we called them, professional children. She was not a professional child. She was a student at a private school.
The producers went to Westlake to, I guess, to help with the development and writing of the show. She caught Charlotte's eye. She was added on later. She wasn't originally part of the group, and Charlotte said, we've got to bring this girl in.
I went into the Tandem offices, and I went into Alan Horn's office. That's where I met Eve Branstein, and I actually met Kim Fields for the first time. And Alan said, would you like to do this? My mom said it would be okay if I wanted to do it, and I thought, why not? What a cool experience. So I let Alan know that I had never acted before, literally. And Kim, at 10 years old, said, you know, I got your back, don't worry about it. I'll let you know what's up. And she literally took me under her wing and explained to me what upstage, downstage, stage left, stage right. I had no idea what this stuff was.
Mindy was a riot to me. I mean, she was just so funny, just naturally.
What was fun about Mindy, though, you'll notice in the first couple of seasons, is that she enjoyed the jokes so much that she would always say them and then have this little smile. You know, for years they would say, "Hun, you can't laugh at your own jokes."
And that's another note that kept coming down from Norman, was that, look, we know that she has big cheeks, but it looks like she's cracking herself up. So even when I wasn't cracking myself up, I guess it just looked like that. So that kind of became one of her trademarks, that actually here was a character on television who didn't take herself so seriously.
The rest of the company included newcomers Julianne Haddock, Julie Piekarski, and future Brat Pack star Molly Ringwald.
Natalie, let's see if we can get through to Harvey, my dead hamster. Oh, Harvey, wherever you are in that big hamster cage in the sky, if you hear me, say something. Just give me a sign. Come in, Harvey.
Molly came from a show business family, actually. Her father was a musician, and she had been in Annie in San Francisco.
Although the cast was quite wonderful, there was one little orphan off on the side, and that was Molly. And she had a slight lisp, and it was really adorable, and she was just a good contrast. Again, physically, personality-wise, she was more of a character than, let's say, Felice or even Lisa at that point. So I invited her to come to the audition, and she brought a lot of talent and personality and charm to this part.
Come on, you guys. Tug of war practice time. We gotta get on the ball before we get our brains knocked in.
Cindy Webster kind of came from a broken family. She was a little bit lost. She was raised by her mom, and she was a tomboy. She didn't quite fit in.
I always thought that Julianne was probably the prettiest girl on the whole set. I just loved that natural blonde hair and blue eyes and just the sweet little face. And so I thought it was ironic that they would choose her to kind of play a tomboy, because she was anything but a tomboy.
She worked very hard acting-wise, and she had done this movie called The Great Santini, and I saw her in that. And even as a kid, I was still a child actor, and remembering that I liked her work in it, that I thought she worked hard, and she did really well in it.
I'm not running.
Julie Piekarski and Julianne Haddock were part of the sort of tradition of teen actresses that came through my life in those days. I had seen so many, and they always came back. I'd have them back from many callbacks. They were very gifted, they were funny, and I could see the future possibilities with them.
Julie Piekarski was very high energy. She was like a cheerleader for the show. She was always very bubbly, very positive, very up.
Julie has the most amazing sensibility and just great head on her shoulders.
You two ought to be ashamed of yourselves. You had no right to be eavesdropping or even to be there. But as long as you were, what else did they say?
With its cast of chipper new faces, the show still had a serious responsibility to help lift NBC out of its ratings slump.
Were they confident that it would work? No. I would say there was not a great deal of confidence it would work, but there was a tremendous amount of hope. There was prayer.
Could a new team of novice actors and an unconventional leading lady save an entire network? when the school bell officially rang in August, Mrs. Garrett's new gang guest starred on a special episode of Diff'rent Strokes. When their own show premiered 3 weeks later, The Facts of Life went up against the hits Fantasy Island and The Incredible Hulk. The Facts of Life's first episode was called Roughhousing, but it went way beyond horseplay.
The very first Facts of Life in the summer of '79 was about a 13-year-old girl who was roughhousing with her roommate and got worried that she might like girls.
Cindy, what's wrong with you? What do you mean? All this touching and hugging girls, and I love you. Boy, are you strange.
I didn't put two and two together about the first episode till later either. I just figured she was making fun of her because she was kind of tomboyish and Blair wasn't.
It was clear that she was questioning her sexuality.
You know me, I'm always hugging and all that junk. I gotta stop that.
Don't you dare. Up here at the school, these girls are your family. There's nothing wrong with hugging and touching. It shows that you're a loving person, and that's good.
It was a very comforting message for kids who were on the verge of learning what their orientation was.
Despite the attempt to mix substance with comedy, the show barely made a ripple. Critics either loathed it or ignored it.
House mother at a girls' school? Why, that's a natural. If The Facts of Life makes it, I wouldn't be surprised if we get 3 of them. Perish the thought, although, as you saw, Charlotte Ray's pretty good at what she does. But the facts of life are that she is all there is to this show.
Facts of Life is the kind of show that TV critics hate because they think it's bland. They can't look beyond the fact that, it wasn't superlative writing. It wasn't necessarily, the greatest acting in the world.
At the end of the show's first season, it was in 74th place. But NBC had sunk so low in the ratings that it couldn't afford a new ship. Instead, the network opted to overhaul the one they had.
In the beginning, Mrs. Garrett had quite a large brood of girls. You're trying to service 10, 12 girls in this show. Pick 4. Forget everybody else. Get rid of them.
Letting several of the young actresses go wasn't a decision that anyone was taking lightly.
We were like the cast of West Wing for, a 22-minute series. So I'm sure that played into part of the decision-making process that God love him, Brandon Tartikoff and the other executives at the network level and the studio level when they were retooling the show to give it a chance because they believed in it.
The fact that it was decided that the show would not have such a large cast was a surprise for all of us.
Everybody was shocked. Nobody knew, that I know of, that they were going to make this major cut and major retooling.
I had nothing to do with the weeding out of who was to stay and who was to go. Thank God I didn't have to do that.
Guess what, Mrs. Garrett? Cindy's gonna run against Blair for Harvest Queen.
And so the exodus began. Felice Schachter, the first actress to join the cast, was also the first let go.
Oh, that's a cinch.
Julie Pekarsky was voted off next. Molly Ringwald was also shown the door.
Molly, goodbye. She didn't make the cut.
Woman against woman? Well, since you put it that way.
Julianne Haddock was the last to face expulsion.
Of course, I wanted to stay on, but I don't think I felt quite that kind of pressure. I was just having a great time. And because I was a kid, too, I also missed my school, my friends. And so when it didn't go beyond, the first season or two, it was kind of a mixed blessing in a way.
It did feel like a rejection in a way because I had been part of the beginning and I had, in a way, been promised so many things. And I had certain expectations that had been, I was disappointed because the expectations weren't met. But thank God, because I went to college and had a full college experience without having the distractions of Hollywood.
On one hand, you're like, I was picked to stay, and on the other hand, you're like, where'd everybody go?
ultimately, it was a really, really smart call. And that was probably the most fundamental decision that led to the success of the show.
Only Mrs. Garrett, Tootie, Natalie, and Blair would remain. The inner circle was formed, but it needed a bit more of an edge to help round it out.
We decided to add somebody. Brandon Tartikoff said, look at a Hallmark commercial. And on that commercial was a 14 or 15-year-old girl who I got tears in my eyes watching her.
You never said this to me before.
Hey, what a card can say for you.
Daddy, I'm gonna keep this forever.
Hey, what a Hallmark card can do.
That was Nancy McKeon.
She'd kicked off these other girls. Molly Ringwald still says she was replaced by Nancy McKeon all those years ago.
When America's looking for something exciting to eat, America heads for Taco Bell.
All the things you love so much, live before your eyes with that Taco Bell touch.
Oh, it's so good to see you guys. I can't believe it, Tootie. You've grown into a woman.
Yeah, we all had our hearts set on a collie, but she'll have to.
Anne, you look gorgeous. I love this suit.
Oh, it's just a little number I picked up in Bergdorf's. You know, it's important to dress for power in the corporate world.
Oh, I've always said that.
And Cindy, I can't believe our tomboy has grown into a glamorous cover girl.
Neither can I. The only cover I imagined you making was the cover of Boy's Life.
We were so innocent and just so sweet and so curious about everything. And I remember us trying to talk to older females about love and sex and just, you know, everything that life had to offer. And we were just all kind of in that space together, and it was a wonderful place to be.
All I can really remember about it is the incredible acts of kindness these amazing girls gave me.
Being away from home and my friends and my family, I had like another family, another set of friends that was very comforting.
In a professional setting like that, it's amazing that we really did all get along. There wasn't the infighting, there wasn't the jealousy, there wasn't the circling or the counting of the lines. We really did enjoy one another and just have a great time.
The things that I am so proud about from being, you know, one of the Fax girls is I went to a coffee house once and I saw this guy wearing one of those retro t-shirts and it had the logo from the show. And it just kind of made me flutter inside like I'm a part of that.
Since the Facts of Life, I went to college. I graduated from Brown University and went back into acting a little bit, but really got into TV production. And for 20 years, I worked in TV production as a production coordinator and then production manager, sometimes producer. I've worked on all kinds of, everything from commercials to, you know, I worked on Law & Order Special Victims Unit. I've done independent features. I've been really lucky with all, you know, the shows I've worked in, and I loved working in production for a long time. It was a lot of fun. And when I felt that I had kind of run my course with that, I went and got my master's in education, and I've been a teacher now for the past 2 years. And I work with children with special needs at a public school in the Bronx. And it's been extremely rewarding and fulfilling like nothing else. And my most recent production is I just had a baby boy who's just amazing. Amazing, and so now I'm being a mommy, which is my favorite job ever.
Well, after Facts of Life, I did continue working as an actress, and I did some shows and guest spots and another series after that. Sort of dropped out, went to college. I have a degree in sociology. Of course, I don't use it, but And after college, just decided that maybe the entertainment industry wasn't for me anymore. It became kind of different than what I remember. And so I just went on. I went into the advertising world for a while, did some account executive work. I'm now in fundraising. I work for a direct marketing firm, and I strategize fundraising for nonprofits such as Greenpeace and National Trust for Historic Preservation and others.
I'm still acting, do a lot of voiceover. I kind of continued my education. I've fundraised for people. I've had good friends. I mean, I think I've just lived a very normal life. I mean, I tend not to. There's nothing really too interesting to say, and I'm kind of thrilled about that. I'm really normal.
I'm proud of the foundation, the personal foundation that Facts of Life gave me, but also the professional foundation to go on to be the actress that I've been blessed to become, the working actress that I still am, the director and producer that I've become, working on documentaries, theater productions.
We filmed the last episode of The Facts of Life in March of 1988. I got married in July of 88. I got pregnant in 89 and then had a child in 90, 91, and 92. So obviously Mrs. Garrett taught me The Facts of Life well.